and I am delighted to be here speaking to you about a topic that is very, very close to me, something I've been working with and studying for quite a while. That is Lal Kitab Astrology. So, you've heard me discuss Ghayat al Hakim or the Beacatrix, and you know I'm deeply interested in astrological magic and astrological remedy, and I've spoken numerous times about Lal Kitab. Now, Lal Kitab is literally a red book, okay, that was often kept, that kept there were two books, a Lal Kitab and a Kala Kitab. So Lal Kitab kept all the records of birth and important things like that, whereas Kala Kitab kept the records of death. So today, before I begin the exposition on Lal Kitab, I would obviously like to remember my Ishta Devata, Uchishta Ganpati, who gives ultimate knowledge of astrology. Okay, so I've spoken many times about his mantras, numerous mantras, and I do many workshops on Uchishta Ganpati. So, you know the mantra I will begin with. Om Hasti Pisachi Likhe Swaha. Om Hasti Pisachi Likhe Swaha. Om Hasti Pisachi Likhe Swaha. If you have not watched my videos on Uchishta Ganpati, then I request you to please drop Uchishta Ganpati, as in type Uchishta Ganpati on my channel, and you will you will see all the videos. I think I've made 4 or 5 videos on Uchishta Ganpati, so kindly check them out. Now, invoking Uchishta Ganpati, who gives ultimate astrological knowledge, let us delve straight into the exposition of Lal Kitab. Lal Kitab is a deeply mysterious book, and many consider it to be a channeled work, and many consider it to be, almost divine. And you cannot question Lal Kitab. But Lal Kitab is actually a very sound astrological system. And an adept at Lal Kitab may even predict a lot of things without your Janam Kundli. Okay, a Lal Kitab practitioner knows how to work with the energy in your chart. And to be a Lal Kitab astrologer, you must understand astrology very, very deeply. But a lot of hoax books and a lot of hoax procedures started to pop up in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and people got sort of disillusioned with the Lal Kitab. Okay, because astrologers, without understanding the deep significance of the Lal Kitab remedies, were dishing out like it was going out of fashion. But to be a true Lal Kitab astrologer, you must understand the significators extremely well. So Lal Kitab is not a channel work. It's very popular in the north, in Kashmir, and also in the south. Okay, but where I come from, which is Bengal, I don't know what's going on. Someone's drilling something. So where I come from, Lal Kitab is actually not that popular. However, my grandfather spent the bulk of his life in Kashmir, and that is where he was introduced to the Lal Kitab. And all my life I remember seeing this very mysterious, oldish book, almost looked like a folder, like an ancient folder, and it was red. Okay, and it was Lal Kitab. Now, many superstitions exist with regards to Lal Kitab, that Lal Kitab is known as a sort of karma clearance. So if you get into the practice and into studying it, oftentimes there's an energy clearance. And that could show up as some kind of, problem, or some kind of distress situation that calls for you to look at it more deeply so you can resolve it. I don't have any such superstitions because I have been working with Lal Kitab for many years and giving many of my clients astrological remedy, astrological pujas, astrological havans and kavachas. Okay, so we will begin with just a brief discussion today on what is the true, um, can't say meaning of Lal Kitab. What does it comprise of? What does it constitute of? What is the subject matter? What do we deal with? So Lal Kitab is, very different from Kundali astrology. Okay, it lays an emphasis on age. Okay, few things also are very very interesting. That planets in their exaltation actually are tremendously important in Lal Kitab, and also the houses hold the central stage here, not the signs, but the houses. Okay, I'll delve more into this. But in Lal Kitab astrology, say you just a novice astrologer and you start to look at the Kundli. Now Lal Kitab has its own chart, which is an annular chart. Okay. So if you go in any software, if you type Lal Kitab chart, it'll pop up and you can type your details and you can get all the, basic readings. So that's quite interesting. However, there is a concept of luck, right? So when you look at a person's luck, you look at their first house, okay, their first house, right? And if there are no planets in that first house or that Kona house and Kendra house, I've told you the first house is not only a Kendra house, it's a Kona house. So it's possibly the most important house in Lal Kitab, even in normal astrology, okay? It's the helm. So you look to the first house, okay, to see if there are any planets there, right? If there are no planets in the first house, then you immediately move to the other Kendra houses, like 4, 7, 10. Okay, and over there, if you do not find anything, then you move into the second, fifth. Then you look at the first. You look at the Kendras, okay, and then you look at the fifth. You look at the 9th and the 3rd and the 11th, right? And lastly, you look at the 12th house and the 8th house. Sorry, I said 8th earlier. You look at the 12th and the 8th at the very end, okay? And then 6. Because, these 3 are the Dushtasthanas, or the problematic zones in the horoscope, okay? Now, I know many people believe that, all this is not relevant in astrology, is in why should a planet be exalted, why should a house be malefic. But all I want to say is, if you do not look at these significations, you tend to lose out a lot in the final reading, because these exaltations, these debilitations, they give us layers, like layers in a narrative. Okay, so if the anti-hero does not exist, how will we understand the hero? Without sadness, how do we understand joy? Okay, when we've been at the very abyss of our spiritual awakening, and how will we understand the culmination of the peak if we don't reach that abyss? Right? So contrasts are really important. Okay, really, really important. So as I said, the Kendra houses in Lal Kitab are very important. First, 4th, 7th, 10th, right? And then you come to the 5th house. Okay, 5th house, next you look at the 5th. Okay, you look at the 11th, right? These are good houses, although with 11th energy can be dicey. 9th house, okay, 9th house is a lucky house, so that's there, right? 3rd also, 3rd some people consider, the 3rd some people consider not so malefic, but 3rd house can be very, very malefic. Okay, but don't forget that, very malefic. And of course, then we have that 2nd house, which in Vedic astrology is actually the house of death, also, with the 8th and the 12th, right? And the 6th, of course, is that enemies and litigations and disputes and all of that. So the Lal Kitab astrologer starts to look for all the exalted planets after identifying these planets in the Kendra houses in the second lot and in the third lot. Okay, and then you also have to look at planets in their own sign. Now I told you that in Lal Kitab the stress is on houses. Okay, first house, second house, third house, like that, 12 houses. Okay. Uh, these planets are very potent. See, a Mars in the 10th house is super potent. Okay, why? Because Mars has that exaltation in Capricorn, which is a natural 10th of the zodiac. So we have that super strong Mars in the 10th house. Even say Mars is in Cancer over there, a debilitated Mars. Okay, but that Mars in the 10th house brings a different kind of energy. Okay, or say it's Saturn in the 11th. Aquarius is the moon trikon sign for Saturn. So Saturn is astoundingly strong in Aquarius, something we will experience quite shortly. Saturn in Vedic Aquarius. Okay, now again, in Lal Kitab, the exalted planet is given a lot of importance. Okay, a lot of importance. And for instance, you look at Jupiter exalted in the 12th house. Okay, and it's for a Leo ascendant. So it becomes that Jupiter and Cancer in the 12th house. Although that 12th house is a Dushtasthana house or a problematic house, that Jupiter is supremely powerful because the Jupiter is in a sign of its exaltation. And if that Jupiter is free from the drishti or aspect of any malefic, then you know that, okay, that Jupiter is really strong, even though it's that 12th house of incarceration, sodomy, mental delinquency, hospitals, asylums, and what have you. Okay. Now, many people tend to think that Lal Kitab originated in Arabia. Now, this is another myth. Lal Kitab did not originate in Arabia because if you look at their culture, they are a Venus dominant culture. Okay, although they follow the lunar cycles very deeply, but they're a Venus dominant civilization. Okay, and green is their main color. Lal is not, or red is not their main color. Okay, in Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, red is given tremendous importance. Okay, red, the color red. We Hindus, we consider red to be very auspicious. A bride wears red. Okay, green is sacred to the Muslims, whereas red is sacred to the Hindus. So, thinking of Lal Kitab as originating from Arabia is a myth. Okay, it's not true. Also, when you look at Vedic astrology, you see that the color of Mangal is red. Mangal is Mars. Okay, so you see that the color of Mangal, and Mangal by the meaning of Mangal is auspicious. Okay, and so we immediately understand that this is an auspicious kitab. Okay, it's a very auspicious system of knowledge, Lal Kitab. Also remember that Mangal is invoked in all Hindu important ceremonies, especially with the hymn Mangalacharan. So we see that here Lal Kitab clearly originates from the banks of the Ganges, or it has been birthed by the Vedic culture. All right. Now it's really an interesting book because if you are an adept at Lal Kitab astrology, then you will possibly be able to just predict things, foretell things, just by examining circumstances. Okay, but of course you have to be really good at your game, because there's so many things that a Lal Kitab practitioner can decipher from the life and the experiences of a practitioner, that they can piece together the planets. Okay, they can tell you the story. In fact, Lal Kitab is a very good way to determine your luck or your fortune if you don't have your birth time. Okay. Now, when you think of this wondrous system, you have to understand that this book has its very own unique system of prediction, its own system of progressions, planetary progressions, okay, and order of planetary dasha. Dashas and sub-periods. So dashas are periods and sub-periods, okay, bhukti and muhurta and all of that. Now, age, which I already said at the beginning of the video, that age is the basis of finding the operative period of a planet in Lal Kitab. So, okay, you may not have your birth time, but you possibly know how old you are. So, if you know your age, then you will understand which planet is the main operational planet for you. Okay. Very interesting now. First 6 years belongs to Saturn. Very interesting. We begin our life with Saturn in Lal Kitab. First to 6. Okay, and we know that actually in our Janam Kundali, we have the first square of Saturn when we are 7.5. Okay, so it's really a very interesting thing that 1 to 6 belongs to Saturn. Now, for instance, yeah, great. For instance, if please leave the talk. You don't need to be here. So, for instance, if Saturn is transiting your eighth house during this 1 to 6 years, okay, and then it could indicate illness. Okay, illness, diseases, even death, because that eighth house is the house of death, right? So we have to understand that 1 to 6, if that period belongs to Saturn, we have to understand the potency of Saturn in the chart. Okay, and if you're having very difficult experiences, then it possibly is a heavily afflicted Saturn. First to 6 years. I mean, that's a time when you're just you were just born and you're just growing up and you're just understanding community, just bonding with your parents and stuff like that. Okay. Now, in the 11th, for instance, it could be favorable because again, that 11th is a slightly positive place. I won't say slightly positive, it's a positive place. The 11th house has its own pros and cons again, which I will get into. Now, 7 to 12, okay, very important years, formative years, belongs to Rahu. Rahu is the lunar node, the north node, okay, the shadowy planet Rahu. Subversion, okay, mental delinquency, disturbed, agitated thoughts, all of this can be attributed to Rahu. Now, 13 to 15 is actually attributed to Ketu. Again, the shadowy planet. Rahu is the head of the dragon. He wants to eat, he's insatiable, but he has no body to digest. So Rahu has this sort of insatiable hunger that cannot be appeased with anything. Okay. Now Ketu is the tail of the dragon. Okay, it's a culmination, it's an ending. Ketu is known as Krura. Okay, so it's a very spiritual energy. Why? Because it's difficult in the material world. Okay, it's difficult in the material world to understand it and to work with it. Now Ketu causes restlessness. Rahu is like a Mars and Ketu is like Saturn. So again, we see all that phobia aspect playing out, restlessness, unfounded fears, panic attacks, all kinds of anguish, just being distraught, right? Also loss of peace and concentration therein. So if that 13 to 15 years we see can be very problematic when we are growing up, right? You're just understanding, we're just hitting puberty, of course, 13 to 15. we're just hitting puberty, our bodies are changing, our minds are changing, the hormonal changes. So again, you see, it's a very difficult energy, and you have a difficult Ketu in your natal chart, then it can be a very difficult time for you during this period of Ketu. Now, 16 to 21 belongs to Jupiter. So we know Jupiter is the greater benefic, is the guru of the gods. So he's Sattvic, he's a Sattvic planet. And then immediately from the 16 to 21, we have some very interesting experiences, right? Uh, First, love, exploring the world for some people at that age, just going out, meeting people from different communities. You know, just Jupiter is what's there, out there, right? So, 16 to 21, you just start looking at what's out there. You know, what's out there? It's a huge world. So, this, if Jupiter is a benefic for you, this period can go very well. Now again, 22 to 23 belongs to the sun, where you awaken to why you have incarnated. You know, if you have a weak sun, then all kinds of problems can occur at this particular point. Correct remedies need to be, you know, practiced, initiated. 24th is the year of the moon. 24th year, okay, is the year of the moon. Then 25 to 27 belongs to Venus. Now again, this is the time when a lot of us get married, and you know, just learn to dress the way we learn to dress, and accept ourselves the way we want to accept ourselves. I mean, for a lot of us, of course, not for those people who have that afflicted Venus, unless you work with that energy and correct it, right? So energy by itself is not good or bad. It's how you deal with that energy, right? So ultimately, I think that this period can be a period when we earn good money. This 25 to 27. In my life, some of the greatest moments were during that time. So I have a Venus in the first house, by the way, but in Purva Falguni, but it is very close to my Mars, and it's also very close to my Mercury and my Saturn. Saturn is in Maga on my ascendant. So it's all Leonine fire energy, but again it's divided into three nakshatras, right? We have Magha, then we have Purva Falguni and Uttara Falguni, right? So and Magha is actually tamas, whereas Uttara Falguni, Purva Falguni are rajas. So that, you know, activity orientated, that Venus of mine. Now 28 to 33 is Mars. This is the time when a lot of us are hitting that Saturn return, and we are working, and we are, like, you know, progressing. We are, you know, going to the next stage of our evolution, which is very important. Mars, action, right? And then we have 34 to 35 Mercury, okay? Mercury, again, learning to communicate, you know, bonding back with our classmates, our brothers, and all of that. And this is the first cycle of 35 years, and it goes on repeating, right? So it's very important to understand these sub periods, because this is how you understand that even if you don't have the birth time, you can have a Lal Kitab reading, okay, without birth time. Now, I told you before that Lal Kitab stresses more on the houses than the signs, okay? Signs are also, of course, important. I'm not saying that, you know, you throw the signs out of the window. No, signs are also very important. But the emphasis is on the houses. Remember that. Okay, say for instance, Mercury is in that sixth house, okay? Now we know that Mercury's natural home is Virgo, sixth house, the natural zodiac, sixth house. And you also know that the moon trikon sign of Mercury is Virgo. And you also know that the exaltation of Mercury is 15 degrees of Virgo. So we immediately see that, okay, Mercury in the sixth house is strong. Say for instance, this Mercury falls in Gemini or Virgo, then it's really strong. It's in its own sign. Okay, if it's in Virgo, it's in a sign of its exaltation as well as its own sign. So, this gives a very good result. Mercury is signifier in the first house of a girl child. Okay, so if this Mercury in the sixth happens to be in a sign like Gemini, Virgo, then that girl child possibly will have a prosperous life. But if that falls in a Mars rule sign, because we know Mercury and Mars are not friends, then you can think that, again, the planetary friendship is very important to understand in Vedic astrology. I mean, even if you're doing tropical astrology, you can put this knowledge to use. Okay, so rounding it off, very simplifying the whole concept. Saturn, Venus, Mercury are sort of together. Okay, Sun, Moon, Mars, Jupiter are sort of together. Okay, and then of course there are shades of their interactions, which we'll get into, but this is the basic understanding of it all. So remember that I spoke about that Mars in the 10th house. That Mars in the 10th house will always be a benefic, e- even if that Mars is in Cancer in his fall position. Okay? And that Saturn in Aquarius in the Mutrikon house. Okay? Um, I say Venus in the 7th, because that's Mutrikon of Libra. Okay? Mutrikon of Venus, Libra. Right? So, Lal Kitab also gives us many instances of planets turning malefic. So you were getting good planetary rays from the planet, and suddenly that planet turns malefic. There are signs to this, okay? And what are the signs? For instance, if you see Jupiter is becoming malefic, the hair or the braid in Lal Kitab it says choti falls off, okay? The braid will literally fall off. Hurdles in education, of course, hurdles in education, false accusations, the gold in your house can get stolen. Now, Lal Kitab says that wearing a garland can make that Jupiter malefic. Now you're like, how can that be, right? How can that be? It's very simple. A garland of round beads is a significator of Mercury. And when you put a garland on your neck, you're actually establishing Mercury on Jupiter, ending Jupiter's benefic run. So Jupiter was a benefic for you, he becomes a malefic just because you established that Mercury on him. So significators are really important. It seems absurd to begin with that how can this wearing something on my neck make Jupiter malefic. But it's all about vibrations. It's pure science, okay, for those who understand. And so when you put that Mercury on that benefic Jupiter, you're basically ending all of its blessings. So now when Venus turns malefic, there can be many indications, but your thumb can pain. Okay, pretty badly. Your thumb can pain. Thumb or any left or right. Okay, all types of skin disease can occur. Dull skin, just not looking beautiful, and that self-image, the deterioration of that self-image, right? No, I was speaking very specifically about Jupiter turning malefic. Okay, it's not about any crystals on the neck. That crystal on the neck can be very beneficial for someone and highly malefic for someone. So when to how to diagnose a particular Lal Kitab annular chart, how to work with it, it's very very important. And then just giving out a remedy, because it's practiced everywhere. It's not acceptable. That can create problems. Okay. Now, if a cow who gives milk and that cow dies, that means Venus is turning malefic. And if the moon turns malefic, the health of the mother may worsen. Okay? Uh, and you can see that, milking cow is not Venus and moon turning malefic. The mother's health and the milking cow, again, cow, surabhi, milk, it's a lot of symbolism here. that shows that the moon is becoming malefic in your energy field, right? If after birth a child dies, then Mars is becoming malefic, okay, in the family. Injury to the eyes, eye diseases of all kinds. That is when you need to know that Mangal is no more an operational benefic for you. It's becoming malefic in your chart. Okay, so you need to correct it. Corrections also very interesting in Lal Kitab. It's almost crazy how simple some of the remedies are, and yet they work so effectively. Now, when Mercury turns malefic, we can, of course, not be as sharp or as witty or as interesting conversationalist as we might think of ourselves to be. But other than that, we have a loss of smell, olfactory nerves, right? Teeth can fall off, stammering, okay, unable to, stand and speak, stammering. Also losing friends. Mercury is a signifier of friends and community. So losing friends, also that could mean Mercury is turned malefic. Uh, I think I've spoken about this before, but piercing the nose is actually one remedy to turn Mercury into a benefic. It's of course gender neutral, male, female, both. Since females do tend to pierce their noses in India, so this remedy, a lot of people do this remedy anyway. Uh, Tilak of saffron and turmeric can turn Jupiter into a benefic. So if in some way you feel like Jupiter is becoming a malefic for you, uh, after puja, of course, remembering your nakshatra lord and your moon sign lord and your ascendant sign lord during puja, and applying a tilak of turmeric and saffron will turn Jupiter into a benefic. Now, yeah, touching the feet of the mother or the elderly in the family can help turn moon into a benefic. Okay, if you want to turn Mangal into a benefic, you have to apply white surma on the eyes. Okay, especially if you have eye problems, it works really well. But of course, a really good quality white surma, not just anything. To facilitate Venus, clean the house, clear out all the junk, take a bath, put on some essential oils. You can diffuse some oils. You can, dab some oils and you wear something beautiful. That makes Venus happy and turns Venus into a benefic, right? That's very, very important. A malefic sun, right? Gives staleness of the limbs of the body. Also excessive saliva and really bad and pungent smell in the mouth. Okay, what was it called? I forget. Halitosis. Halitosis. Yes. Excessive bad breath. Halitosis. Simple remedy in Lal Kitab. They say that put some sugar in water before you go out. This is for someone with a malefic sun. Very simple. Sugar is a significator of Mars, and water is a significator of moon. So here you are beseeching the help of Mangal and Chandra to counter the maleficence of Surya, the sun. Okay, it's very simple. Uh, this sun is powered by the moon and the Mars through the saliva, right? This is a very good remedy. I think it's really practiced by many people. Many people have said this to with malefic sun. It has really worked. Also, malefic sun Matangi Vidya. Okay, doing Matangi sadhana really helps. Now, Mercury signifies common sense. Okay, so of course, loss of basic cognition, basic understanding is totally Mercury becoming malefic. In your children, if they cannot concentrate, ADHD or hyper behavior. Okay, for instance, Lord of Buddha Mercury is Durga. So if you feel this anxiety, just chanting Om Dum Durgaya Namaha can really help you. Now, Lord of Rahu is Saraswati. Okay, and I've told you that Rahu is also intelligence. Rahu is also intelligence, but beyond acquired knowledge. Mercury is acquired knowledge. Okay, but Rahu is beyond acquired knowledge. For instance, when Newton was sitting under that tree and that apple fell on his head, and he thought about the solar system and how and he thought about gravity, and he thought about heliocentrism. So that was not in the scope of human knowledge. So that awakening when that apple fell on his head was a Rahu initiation. Okay, like get on it. Look beyond humanity's acquired knowledge. There's more. Often we become very scared, very restless, and we have these really difficult dreams. Okay, and that is when again Rahu is becoming malefic, because Rahu signifies dreams and mental delinquency, which I have already explained to you previously. Rahu breeds fear, also increase in number of enemies for no apparent reason. Okay, so that's quite interesting. If you feel that suddenly people are becoming hostile towards you, and suddenly you have no friends, and people are misunderstanding what you're saying, it could be Rahu turning malefic. Problems with in-laws is also a Rahu problem. So the best thing to do is not to avoid this, but make peace. Forgive and forget. Rahu loves that kind of thing. So it's quite subversive. Uh, Sort out the issues. It's the best remedy with your in-laws, okay? And sometimes it's not easy, but just forgive, even if you don't have to meet them ever again. Forgive and forget. Also, keeping long hair is a remedy of Rahu. Now, remember I said before that keeping long hair actually appeases Jupiter, right? I'll explain to you later why. But always remember that 12th house belongs to Rahu in the Lal Kitab system, but Rahu is ill placed there. Not a good place for Rahu. Rahu in the 12th house, problematic, okay? Uh, 12th house is place of the idle mind actually. The idle mind. It's a place of samadhi. It's a place of meditation, deep spiritual realizations. But that idle mind, that mental delinquency is at 12th house. So keeping the long hair activates uh, Jupiter actually. Why? Because the 12th house is the natural home of Jupiter. It's Pisces. And it sort of uh, grounds that Rahu energy, keeping that hair. Native Americans used to also keep hair, long hair in the men. So did the Vikings. So there's some truth to that. There are neurons and all kinds of, associations made in the brain with the nerve endings, and maybe keeping that really appeases Jupiter if you have the Rahu in the 12th. And your idle mind that's just flickering here and there, that can receive tremendous grounding if you grow your hair. It's very simple. That's a tremendously good remedy. I mean, hair is not easy to grow for some people, but just let it be natural. However, 12th house is also the house of Samadhi. So that long hair, again, you see a lot of yogis, a lot of sadhus have that long hair. Sufis, Bauls of Bengal, and even Vaishnavas, people who do Kirtan, they keep that long hair. That's one of the reasons. Rahu is, however, favorable in the 6th house. So when Rahu is in the 12th, the natural home of Jupiter, the brain strengthens Jupiter, okay, and keeps Rahu in check. Now, when we see again the friendship radar of the planets, we see that Jupiter and Rahu are actually not in the friendship group, because Rahu and Jupiter are even. They're even planets. Okay, so that's interesting. They can balance, checkmate each other. Okay, that's possible. Sixth house belongs to Ketu, okay, and Ketu is a malefic here. Though sixth house belongs to Ketu, Ketu is a malefic here. It's not easy to have a sixth house Ketu, believe me. Uh, but offers good results in the 12th, whereas Rahu does not offer good results in the 12th. Okay, now when nails of feet are worn and they fall off, okay, or even the nails are ingrown, okay, both hand and toenails are ingrown, then there is something happening with your Ketu. Ketu is turning malefic, okay. Also urinary diseases, all kinds, UTIs and all that. Joint pains, okay. Ketu signifies the sun, okay. So any kind of problems that arise because of the sun is also a sign that Ketu is becoming malefic. Worry, grief, anxiety related issues with the sun indicate that Ketu is becoming a malefic. Also, another thing, when Ketu is becoming a malefic, you will be toiling without much results. Nothing is happening, but you're working really, really hard, toiling day and night. Injuries to feet and legs incessantly. Okay, so piercing the earlobe is a very good Lal Kitab remedy, also for Mercury, by the way. Now, the first house Ketu, if you have Ketu, I want to discuss because Ketu is complicated, and I've been seeing a lot of Ketu people, okay, either Ketu Mahadasha or Ketu dominant people, Ketu in the first. Important, okay, to understand Ketu and Lal Kitab a little bit. If you have first house Ketu, keep red painted iron balls with you. You can say it's so difficult to get. I totally agree. Some of the Lal Kitab remedies are easy, some are not. Second house Ketu, you will be traveling, if Ketu is malefic, you will be traveling to barren and dry lands and possibly feel parched all the time, wandering endlessly, here, hither, thither, wandering endlessly. Income could be good, but expenditure supersedes income. Okay, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you try, then it's always like, and I try. I don't have that Ketu in the second, I have the Ketu in the eighth, in the Dushtastana house. However, the best Lal Kitab remedy for this is do not be a philanderer. Do not be a philanderer, okay? Remember. Third house Ketu, throw gram dal in flowing water. Fourth house Ketu, keep turmeric or haldi in a brass vessel, kansa vessel, okay, brass. Now you ask why? Why should I keep turmeric in a brass vessel? Simple. Brass signifies Jupiter in Vedic astrology, and the fourth house is Cancer, the exaltation of Jupiter. Remember, Cancer is the exaltation of Jupiter. It's the fourth house in the natural, fourth sign of the natural zodiac. The fourth house is Cancer energies. In the Lal Kitab system, remember that the significators of the planets change as they change houses. So the knowledge of significators is really, really important to understand Lal Kitab. Okay? For instance, Mercury in the first house, I told you, signifies a girl child, right? Like me. I have Mercury in the first house, conjunct Saturn in Magha, ruled by Ketu. And the Ketu is in the 8th house. Okay. Giving birth to my daughter was a hugely transformational process for me. If this is Gemini, as I said before, Gemini and Virgo, prosperous. Mars, problem. Again, remember that Mercury is not friendly to Mars. Okay? Mercury in the second house is a significator of unmarried sister or wife. What we say, Sali. Mercury in the third house signifies elder sister, own elder sister. Sixth house signifies daughters. Moon in the sixth signifies maternal grandmother. If moon is a malefic or in fall, say, or aspected by malefics, then Nani can die, as in grandmother, maternal grandmother can die, or there can be a huge distance between you and your maternal grandmother. Okay? Moon in the eighth, signifier of wife of father's elder brother, which we say Tai. So the wife of father's elder brother, the moon in the eighth. Moon in the tenth is a signifier of Chachi, which is a younger brother's wife. So you see how one planet is changing significations as and when it's changing houses. Moon in the 12th is a signifier of mother-in-law. Saturn again in the 10th is a signifier of uncle or chacha. Mars in the 3rd, elder brother of father, Daya. Ketu in the first, only one son. A lot of people with Ketu in the first will have only one son. Okay? Mercury in the first, one daughter. Ketu in the second, brother-in-law. Ketu in the third, nephew. Ketu in the sixth, Bhanja, which is son of sister. And grandson from daughter. Ketu in the 10th, cousin from father's brother. So this is how a planet changes significations as they change houses. And it's very important to understand all of these deep significations, because they explain to us the deeper symbology. Okay, if Ketu is traveling through the third house, what is the meaning of that? Who is it affecting? Your nephew. Ketu's in the first, it's affecting your son. So again, you have to see where Ketu is placed, which sign, which nakshatra, which navamsa. Okay, also you have to look at not only the Kundali chart, if you're studying astrology, you have to also look at divisional charts. Ashtavarga, Navamsa, stuff like that. It's very, very important. So that was a bit on the Lal Kitab. I don't want these videos to be too long, because I want to do many expounding this very complex, archaic system of knowledge. Uh, and I hope you like this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share. And if you want to book a reading, or if you want Uchishta Ganpati or Uchishta Matangi workshop, then kindly send me an email, tina@tinahills.com. Thank you so much for being here, and namaste. Speak soon.